Number 1 takes us back nearly 2,000 years to the height of the Roman Empire, an invention so far ahead of its time it was erased from history. This story is a powerful reminder that revolutionary technologies have always posed a threat to those in power. Sometimes an idea is so disruptive, it's deemed too dangerous to survive. The flexible glass of ancient Rome represents one of history's most intriguing examples of lost technology. During the reign of Emperor Tiberius Caesar, between 14 and 37 CE, a craftsman appeared before the emperor with what seemed like an impossible invention. He carried with him a drinking bowl made from a material that looked like glass, but possessed properties that defied everything Romans understood about the nature of matter itself. When the craftsman demonstrated his creation, witnesses watched in amazement as he threw the bowl to the marble floor of Caesar's palace. Instead of shattering into countless pieces as any normal glass would, the bowl simply dented like metal. But this wasn't metal. The material was completely transparent, lighter than bronze, and more beautiful than the finest crystal. Even more remarkably, the inventor showed how any damage to the material could be repaired instantly using nothing more than a simple hammer. The implications were staggering. This flexible glass could revolutionize everything from household items to military equipment. Armor made from this material would be lighter than leather, yet stronger than bronze. Windows could be made that would never break. Containers could be created that were both transparent and virtually indestructible. The economic potential was enormous, and that's precisely what made it so dangerous. When Caesar asked the inventor about the manufacturing process, the craftsman proudly declared that he alone possessed the secret formula. No one else in the empire knew how to create this miraculous material. The knowledge resided entirely in his mind. Caesar's response was swift and brutal. He ordered the inventor executed immediately, ensuring that the secret of flexible glass would die with its creator. The emperor's reasoning was coldly logical. Roman society depended on established economic hierarchies built around the value of traditional materials. Gold and silver derived their worth from scarcity and unique properties. If flexible glass could be manufactured widely, it would possess many of the same desirable characteristics, while being potentially much more abundant. The entire monetary system could collapse. Craftsmen working with traditional materials would find their skills obsolete overnight. The economic disruption could destabilize the empire itself. What makes this case particularly fascinating is that modern materials science has actually developed flexible glass-like materials, proving that such technology is scientifically possible. Recent innovations in ultra-thin glass sheets and flexible displays demonstrate that the Roman invention, if it existed, was simply centuries ahead of its time. The craftsman had somehow discovered principles that wouldn't be rediscovered until the 21st century. Archaeological evidence suggests that Roman glass-making technology was far more sophisticated than previously believed. Analysis of surviving Roman glass artifacts reveals manufacturing techniques that approached industrial levels of precision. Some Roman glass contains additives and shows processing methods that indicate a deep understanding of materials science. The flexible glass story, while possibly embellished over time, may represent the pinnacle of Roman technological achievement that was deliberately erased from history. Our second impossible invention brings us to the modern era, where the suppression of revolutionary technology continues with even more sophisticated methods. The story of Stanley Meyer and his water fuel cell represents one of the most controversial cases of alleged technological suppression in recent decades. In the 1980s, Stanley Meyer, an American inventor, claimed to have developed a revolutionary device that could power automobiles using nothing but ordinary water. His water fuel cell supposedly split H2O molecules into hydrogen and oxygen using far less energy than conventional electrolysis required. If legitimate, this technology would have made gasoline obsolete virtually overnight, transforming transportation and eliminating humanity's dependence on fossil fuels. Meyer demonstrated his invention publicly on multiple occasions, showing a modified Volkswagen Beetle that he claimed ran entirely on water. Witnesses describe seeing the car operate normally while consuming only water from the tank. The engine ran smoothly, produced the expected performance, and emitted only water vapor from the exhaust. Independent observers confirmed that no hidden fuel sources were apparent during these demonstrations. The technical specifications Meyer provided seemed plausible to non-experts. His device used electrical pulses at specific frequencies to break the molecular bonds in water, supposedly achieving this separation with minimal energy input. He claimed to have discovered the precise resonant frequency of water molecules that would cause them to split apart naturally, requiring only a small electrical trigger rather than the massive energy input conventional electrolysis demanded. Patent applications for Meyer's water fuel cell were filed with detailed technical drawings and operational descriptions. The documentation appeared sophisticated and comprehensive, suggesting substantial research and development had gone into the project. Meyer's background as an electrical engineer lent credibility to his claims, and his public demonstrations continued for several years without obvious signs of fraud. However, the scientific community remained deeply skeptical. The energy requirements Meyer claimed to achieve would violate fundamental laws of thermodynamics. Breaking the molecular bonds in water requires a specific amount of energy, and there's no known way to reduce this requirement through resonance or frequency manipulation. The claimed efficiency levels would essentially create energy from nothing, which contradicts established physics. In 1996, an Ohio court investigated Meyer's claims and found them fraudulent. Expert analysis revealed that his water fuel cell consumed far more electrical energy than it could possibly generate, making it a net energy loss rather than the revolutionary breakthrough he claimed. The court ordered Meyer to refund investors who had been deceived by his false claims. But the story took a dramatic turn on March 20th, 1998. Stanley Meyer died suddenly while dining at a restaurant, reportedly after meeting with potential Belgian investors. According to his brother, Meyer ran outside during the meal, shouting that he had been poisoned. The official cause of death was determined to be a cerebral aneurysm, but conspiracy theories immediately began circulating about assassination to suppress his revolutionary technology. The circumstances surrounding Meyer's death fueled decades of speculation about technological suppression. Supporters argued that his sudden demise, just as international interest was growing, couldn't be coincidental. They pointed to the timing of his death, occurring right before he was supposedly about to reveal more details about his invention to foreign investors. The fact that crucial components of his system were never recovered after his death added another layer of mystery to an already controversial case. What makes the Meyer story particularly intriguing is how it illustrates the complex relationship between legitimate scientific skepticism and conspiracy theories about suppressed technology. While court findings clearly demonstrated fraud in his specific claims, the broader concept of water as fuel continues to captivate inventors and investors. Numerous researchers have attempted to replicate or improve upon Meyer's work, often facing their own mysterious setbacks and unexplained obstacles. The pattern extends far beyond individual cases. Independent inventors working on similar hydrogen extraction technologies have reported harassment, equipment theft, and sudden withdrawal of funding, just as their projects showed promise. Patents related to advanced electrolysis and hydrogen generation are routinely classified under national security provisions, removing them from public access indefinitely. This brings us to our third impossible invention, one that demonstrates how ancient civilizations may have possessed technological knowledge that wouldn't be rediscovered for millennia. The legendary Greek fire of the Byzantine Empire represents military technology so effective and mysterious that its secrets were guarded more carefully than state treasures, only to vanish completely when its keepers died without passing on their knowledge. Greek fire was an incendiary weapon, that gave the Byzantine Empire decisive naval superiority for over 6 centuries. First deployed in the 7th century CE, this liquid fire could ignite upon contact with water, making it devastatingly effective against enemy ships. The psychological impact was as important as its physical effects, striking terror into sailors who had never encountered anything that burned on the ocean itself. Contemporary accounts describe Greek fire as a substance that would burst into flames when exposed to water, creating an unstoppable inferno that couldn't be extinguished by conventional means. Enemy fleets would watch in horror as their wooden vessels were consumed by flames that seemed to feed on the very water they desperately tried to use for salvation. The weapon's effectiveness in protecting Constantinople was so remarkable that its discovery was attributed to divine intervention. The formula for Greek fire was one of the most closely guarded secrets in history. Knowledge was restricted to the imperial family and a select few craftsmen who manufactured it under conditions of absolute secrecy. Even within the Byzantine court, most officials had no idea how the weapon was produced. The manufacturing process took place in hidden facilities, and workers were sworn to secrecy under penalty of death. Historical records credit the invention to Kallinikos, though modern historians believe it was more likely developed by a team of chemists in Constantinople who inherited scientific knowledge from the Alexandrian school. Whatever its origins, the weapon represented a technological leap that gave Byzantium military advantages that lasted for centuries. Enemy attempts to capture or reverse engineer the substance consistently failed. Even when they managed to obtain samples, the composition of Greek fire remains one of history's greatest unsolved mysteries. Modern attempts to recreate it have produced various incendiary mixtures, but none match the historical descriptions of the original weapon. Analysis suggests it likely contained petroleum, quicklime, and sulfur, but the exact proportions and any additional secret ingredients remain unknown. Some theories propose the inclusion of calcium phosphide or other chemicals that would react violently with water. What makes Greek fire particularly fascinating is that unlike many alleged lost technologies, this one definitely existed and was extensively documented in use. Byzantine naval records detail hundreds of engagements where Greek fire proved decisive. Archaeological evidence from shipwrecks and fortress sites confirms the widespread deployment of specialized equipment designed for its application. The weapon wasn't mythical or exaggerated. It was a real technological advantage that shaped medieval warfare. The loss of this technology demonstrates how even state-protected secrets can vanish from history when knowledge transfer fails. As the Byzantine Empire declined in the later medieval period, the number of people who understood Greek fire production dwindled. Political instability and economic pressures disrupted the careful traditions of knowledge preservation that had maintained the secret for centuries. By the time of Constantinople's fall in 1453, the secret of Greek fire had already been lost for generations. The Ottoman conquerors found no trace of the manufacturing facilities or documentation that would have revealed its composition. The technology that had protected the empire for over 600 years had simply evaporated, taking with it military capabilities that wouldn't be matched until the development of modern incendiary weapons. Our fourth impossible invention takes us to ancient Mesopotamia, where archaeological discoveries suggest that electrical technology may have existed thousands of years before its official invention. The Baghdad battery represents one of archaeology's most puzzling artifacts, challenging our understanding of ancient technological capabilities while raising questions about what other advanced knowledge may have been lost to time. Discovered near Baghdad in the 1930s, the Baghdad battery consists of a ceramic jar containing a copper tube and iron rod held together with bitumen. Dating to around 200 BCE, this unusual combination of materials can generate electrical current when filled with acidic liquid, essentially functioning as a primitive battery capable of producing about 1 volt of electricity. The archaeological context suggests these devices weren't isolated experiments, but part of a broader technological tradition. Multiple similar artifacts have been found across ancient Mesopotamia, indicating widespread knowledge of their construction and use. The craftsmanship displays sophisticated understanding of metal properties and chemical interactions that wouldn't be formally documented until modern times. Experimental replicas have successfully generated electrical current, proving the basic principle works exactly as hypothesized. When filled with grape juice, vinegar, or other acidic solutions, the copper and iron components create a galvanic cell that produces measurable electrical output. The voltage generated would be sufficient for electroplating gold onto silver, a technique that could explain certain archaeological finds of incredibly thin gold layering on ancient artifacts. What makes the Baghdad battery particularly intriguing is the precision required for its construction. The copper cylinder shows evidence of careful manufacturing, with walls of consistent thickness and smooth internal surfaces that suggest advanced metalworking techniques. The iron rod displays specific oxidation patterns that indicate it was processed using methods that enhanced its conductivity. The bitumen seal demonstrates knowledge of chemical properties that would prevent corrosion while maintaining electrical contact. Archaeological evidence suggests these devices may have been used for medical treatments, possibly as primitive electrotherapy equipment. Ancient Mesopotamian medical texts describe treatments involving metal objects and acidic solutions applied to patients suffering from various ailments. While the connections aren't explicitly stated, the parallels between these descriptions and the electrical properties of the Baghdad battery artifacts are remarkable. The suppression of knowledge about the Baghdad battery came not through deliberate destruction, but through the gradual loss of understanding as civilizations fell and technical knowledge was abandoned. When the Parthian and Sasanian empires collapsed, the craftsmen who understood electrical principles disappeared along with their workshops and training traditions. The devices that remained became curiosities, their true purpose forgotten as succeeding cultures focused on different technological paths. Modern attempts to understand these ancient electrical devices have been hampered by academic resistance to accepting their true nature. Many archaeologists prefer to classify them as religious artifacts or storage containers rather than acknowledge their electrical capabilities. This institutional reluctance to recognize ancient technological sophistication represents a form of contemporary suppression where evidence is dismissed because it doesn't fit established historical narratives. Our fifth impossible invention demonstrates how metallurgical secrets can vanish so completely that even modern science struggles to replicate ancient achievements. Damascus steel represents perhaps the most famous example of lost manufacturing knowledge, creating blades whose properties weren't fully understood until the development of nanotechnology revealed the sophisticated structures embedded within the metal itself. Damascus steel blades were legendary throughout the medieval world for their unmatched sharpness and durability. These weapons could slice through European armor, bend without breaking, and maintain their cutting edge through countless battles. The distinctive watered pattern on their surface wasn't merely decorative, but indicated internal structures that gave the steel its remarkable properties. The manufacturing process required specific steel ingots imported from India, known as wootz steel, which contained precise combinations of carbon and trace elements. Syrian weaponsmiths in Damascus developed techniques for working this material that created microscopic structures invisible to the naked eye, but crucial to the blade's performance. The forging process involved heating cycles, folding patterns, and cooling methods that were passed down through generations of master craftsmen. Modern metallurgical analysis has revealed that authentic Damascus steel contains carbon nanotubes and cementite nanowires, structures that weren't officially discovered until the late 20th century. These microscopic formations create the blade's superior properties by distributing stress evenly throughout the metal and maintaining sharpness at the molecular level. The ancient smiths had somehow developed techniques that produced nanotechnology centuries before scientists understood what they were creating. The decline of Damascus steel production wasn't due to suppression, but rather economic and technological changes that made the knowledge obsolete. As firearms replaced swords on battlefields, demand for superior blades decreased dramatically. The specialized craftsmen who possessed the manufacturing secrets turned to other trades or died without fully training successors. The specific sources of white steel in India became depleted or were redirected to other uses. By 1750, the last workshops capable of producing authentic Damascus steel had closed. The techniques that had created these legendary weapons were lost completely, surviving only in fragmentary descriptions that lacked the crucial details needed for replication. Modern attempts to recreate Damascus steel have produced similar-looking patterns, but may not match the original's superior properties. The loss represents how specialized knowledge can disappear when economic conditions change and traditional training systems break down. Unlike deliberate suppression, this technological erasure occurred through natural market forces and the gradual abandonment of skills that were no longer commercially viable. The result was the same, however. Humanity lost access to metallurgical techniques that wouldn't be fully understood or replicated for centuries. Our sixth impossible invention brings us into the digital age, where the potential for information compression reached levels that seemed to violate the fundamental laws of data storage. The Sloot digital coding system promised to revolutionize how we store and transmit information, but its creator's sudden death ensured that this breakthrough would join the ranks of technologies lost forever. Jan Sloot was a Dutch electronics engineer who claimed to have developed a revolutionary data compression system in the mid-1990s. His technique could allegedly compress a full-length movie into just 8 kilobytes of data, a compression ratio that defied everything computer scientists understood about information theory. If legitimate, this technology would have transformed digital media storage and transmission decades before current capabilities reached such levels. The compression ratios Sloot claimed were so extreme that they attracted serious attention from major technology companies. Philips executives became involved in evaluating the system, and substantial investments were being negotiated based on preliminary demonstrations. The involvement of credible corporate interests suggested there might be genuine substance to Sloot's claims, even though the technical specifications seemed impossible. Sloot's demonstrations reportedly showed his compression system working exactly as claimed. Video files that normally required megabytes of storage were reduced to tiny fractions of their original size, without apparent loss of quality. The compressed files could be transmitted almost instantaneously and then restored to their original form using his proprietary decompression algorithm. Independent observers witnessed these demonstrations and confirmed the system's apparent effectiveness. The technology promised to revolutionize internet communications, digital broadcasting, and data storage industries. If movies could be compressed to 8 kilobytes, entire film libraries could fit on single floppy disks. Internet bandwidth limitations would become irrelevant when massive files could be transmitted in seconds. The economic implications were staggering, potentially disrupting entire sectors of the technology industry. But just days before Sloot was scheduled to reveal his complete system to investors and provide the source code that would validate his claims, he was found dead in his garden from an apparent heart attack. The timing couldn't have been worse. The crucial components of his system, including the key algorithms stored on a floppy disk in his personal possession, vanished after his death and were never recovered. The loss of Sloot's compression technology represents the fragility of cutting-edge research when knowledge exists only in the mind of a single individual. Modern data compression techniques have advanced significantly since the 1990s, but they still fall far short of the ratios Sloot claimed to achieve. Whether his system was genuine or fraudulent remains unknown, but the potential impact of such technology ensures that speculation continues decades after his death. Skeptics argue that such extreme compression ratios would violate fundamental principles of information theory, making Sloot's claims scientifically impossible. Supporters counter that revolutionary breakthroughs often seem impossible until they're achieved, and that the involvement of serious investors suggests the technology had genuine merit. The truth died with Sloot, taking with it either a remarkable fraud or a technological breakthrough that could have changed the world. Our seventh impossible invention demonstrates how individual inventors can inadvertently suppress their own revolutionary technologies through excessive secrecy and paranoia about intellectual property theft. The story of Starlite represents a material so remarkable that its loss may have cost countless lives that could have been saved by its fire-resistant properties. Maurice Ward developed Starlite in the 1980s, creating a plastic material that could withstand astonishingly high temperatures without burning, melting, or even conducting heat. The material's properties seem to defy conventional understanding of how plastics behave under extreme thermal stress. Demonstrations showed Starlite remaining cool to the touch even when subjected to direct flame from acetylene torches that burned at over 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit. The material's potential applications were enormous. Aircraft could be fireproof to prevent disaster scenarios like those that claimed hundreds of lives in aviation accidents. Buildings could be constructed with Starlite components that would remain structurally sound during fires, providing more time for evacuation and rescue operations. Military applications included heat shields for spacecraft and protective equipment for personnel operating in extreme environments. BBC television conducted independent testing that confirmed Starlite's remarkable properties. High-powered lasers that could vaporize steel barely affected the material's surface. Nuclear flash simulators that replicated the thermal pulse from atomic weapons left Starlite samples completely unchanged. These weren't manufacturer claims or promotional demonstrations, but rigorous scientific testing that validated the material's extraordinary capabilities. Despite overwhelming evidence of its effectiveness and enormous commercial potential, Ward refused to reveal Starlite's composition or manufacturing process. He demanded majority control of any company that would commercialize the material and insisted on terms that would prevent reverse engineering or independent analysis. His paranoia about intellectual property theft led him to reject numerous partnership offers from major corporations and government agencies. Ward's secretive approach ultimately doomed his invention. When he died in 2011, he had made no agreements for technology transfer and left no complete documentation of Starlite's formulation. While he claimed that some family members knew the recipe, no evidence has emerged that anyone else possesses the complete knowledge needed to reproduce the material's unique properties. Recent attempts to recreate Starlite have produced materials with impressive heat resistance, but none appear to match the original's performance characteristics. The specific combination of ingredients and processing techniques that gave Starlite its remarkable properties remains unknown. The material that could have revolutionized fire safety and saved countless lives was lost because its creator trusted no one with its secrets. The Starlite case illustrates how the fear of technology theft can result in greater losses than the theft itself would have caused. Ward's insistence on maintaining complete control prevented his invention from reaching the public, ultimately ensuring that it would benefit no one, rather than risk someone else profiting from his work. The potential for family members to possess partial knowledge keeps alive hopes that Starlite might someday return. But each passing year makes recovery less likely as memories fade and details are lost. Our eighth impossible invention takes us to the intersection of ancient knowledge and modern archaeology, where a corroded bronze mechanism discovered in a Mediterranean shipwreck revealed technological sophistication that shouldn't have existed for over 1,000 years. The antikythera mechanism represents perhaps the most compelling evidence that advanced civilizations possess scientific knowledge that was systematically erased from the historical record. In 1901, sponge divers working off the Greek island of Antikythera recovered what appeared to be the remnants of an ancient Roman cargo vessel. Among the statues, pottery, and jewelry scattered across the sea floor lay a heavily corroded bronze object that would challenge everything historians believed about ancient technological capabilities. For decades, this mysterious artifact sat in museum storage, dismissed as an unimportant piece of corroded metal from a long-dead civilization. Modern analysis using advanced imaging techniques revealed the true nature of this ancient device. The antikythera mechanism is an analog computer of staggering complexity, built around 100 BCE using sophisticated gear systems to track celestial movements with mathematical precision. The device could predict eclipses decades in advance, follow the complex orbital cycles of known planets, and calculate the timing of Olympic Games and religious festivals based on astronomical observations. What makes this mechanism extraordinary isn't just its functionality, but the advanced engineering principles embedded in its construction. The device incorporates differential gearing, a technology that historians believed wasn't developed until the 16th century. Its eclipse prediction system requires knowledge of lunar orbital variations that weren't officially discovered until Johannes Kepler's work in the 17th century. The mathematical calculations encoded in its gear ratios demonstrate understanding of planetary mechanics that wouldn't be formalized until Newton's laws of motion. Recent CT scan analysis has revealed even more sophisticated capabilities hidden within the corroded bronze. The mechanism originally contained functions for tracking all known planets, predicting their positions years in advance, and calculating complex astronomical phenomena that required deep understanding of celestial mechanics. The precision of the gear ratios uses mathematical approximations that wouldn't be developed until the Renaissance, suggesting knowledge that was centuries ahead of its time. The creator of this device possessed scientific understanding that seems impossible for the ancient world. The mechanical solutions to complex astronomical calculations show engineering principles that anticipate developments in clockwork technology by over a millennium. The device represents a level of technological sophistication that vanished completely from the historical record, as if someone with modern knowledge had appeared in ancient Greece and then disappeared without a trace. What happened to this knowledge represents one of history's greatest intellectual catastrophes. The mathematical and engineering principles required to build the antikythera mechanism simply vanished from human understanding. No other ancient Greek artifacts show similar complexity, and the scientific knowledge embedded in the device seems to have disappeared without being transmitted to later generations. Libraries were burned, scholars were scattered, and the institutional knowledge that supported such advanced research was lost forever. Our ninth impossible invention brings us to one of history's most famous polymaths, whose private notebooks contain designs and concepts so advanced they raise disturbing questions about the source of his knowledge. Leonardo da Vinci's technical drawings include inventions that wouldn't become reality for centuries, displaying understanding of scientific principles that weren't officially discovered until the modern era. Leonardo's notebooks reveal designs for helicopters that incorporate principles of lift and torque not formally understood until the 19th century. His submarine concepts show sophisticated grasp of pressure dynamics and underwater navigation that wouldn't be achieved until World War I. Tank designs include features like sloped armor and mechanical transmission systems that anticipate automotive engineering by centuries. These weren't vague conceptual sketches, but detailed engineering blueprints with precise specifications. These 7 impossible inventions represent more than lost opportunities for human advancement. They're evidence of a pattern that spans millennia, from ancient Rome to the digital age. Whether through deliberate suppression, tragic accidents, or excessive secrecy, revolutionary technologies continue to vanish just as they're poised to transform civilization. The knowledge that could have freed us from scarcity, cured diseases, and unlocked the secrets of matter itself remains locked away in classified vaults or lost forever to time. Perhaps the greatest tragedy isn't that these inventions disappeared, but that we may never know how many more are being erased right now.